June 1984, a mother of two leaves her Bristol home to scout locations for an art project and vanishes without a trace. Her name is Shelley Morgan. Just 48 hours earlier, in nearby Bath, a woman was brutally stabbed to death, a savage killing that sent shockwaves through the West Country. For months, Shelley's disappearance tormented her family until her body was found deep on woodland, stabbed to death. Two women, 2 days apart, two neighboring cities. Coincidence, or the work of a predator moving silently between them? Welcome to Crimes That Haunt Us. We release a new case every Sunday at 6 p.m, so hit subscribe and don't miss the next one. And let me know your thoughts on this case in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. In the bustling city of Des Moines, Iowa in the United States, on the 22nd of March 1951, Shelley Cameron Bryan was born into a middle-class family whose very soul pulsed with creative energy. Her mother, a gifted seamstress with hands that could weave stories from thread, sat with little Shelley by age 7, guiding her through the delicate, meditative art of sewing patchwork quilts, each square a fragment of memory, each stitching a promise of beauty to come. From 1958 through to 1965, Shelley attended local elementary school and middle schools in Iowa, where teachers, wide-eyed with wonder, documented her exceptional visual spatial intelligence in formal reports. She dominated regional art contests with hauntingly precise charcoal sketches of the Midwest's endless landscapes. With a borrowed Pentax Spotmatic 35mm film camera slung over her shoulder, Shelley transformed her parents' damp, cluttered basement into a makeshift darkroom. Beneath the crimson glow of a safe light, she coaxed images from chemical baths, each print a revelation, each negative a secret unlocked. Shelley's restless spirit for travel and exploration found its true voice. Accepted into the prestigious American Field Service Foreign Student Exchange Program, she crossed an ocean for the first time, spending an entire summer overseas, living with a host family in Japan. It was her inaugural journey beyond American soil, a baptism in foreign light, sound, and custom that would shape her destiny. That same creative fire propelled Shelley toward a professional calling in textiles and costume design. To forge a legitimate path, she enrolled in college and university, earning formal qualifications in theater arts, a world where fabric became character and thread became narrative. After completing her second year at university, opportunity knocked with general grandeur, a summer internship at a renowned opera house in Rome. For Shelley, it was perfection incarnate, the chance to merge her twin passions for travel and exploration with her love of the arts, stitching costumes for divas under the shadow of the Colosseum. Emboldened by her success in Rome, Shelley began scouring Europe for permanent employment. England had long lived in her imagination as a land of theatrical tradition and misty allure. She applied, interviewed, and ultimately secured a coveted position as wardrobe manager at the Liverpool Playhouse. In 1972, she seized the moment, boarded a plane, and never returned to America. The frenetic, electric rhythm of theatre life was her oxygen. The late-night fittings, the frantic alterations under stage lights, the moment a costume breathed life into a character, it all gave Shelley a profound sense of achievement and excitement when a production finally came together. It was within the velvet-draped corridors of the Liverpool Playhouse that Shelley met her first love and future husband, Nigel Morgan, a 22-year-old engineering student from Swansea, Wales, with a quiet intensity and a mind like a blueprint. Within months, Shelley and Nigel were married in a small registry office, their vows spoken softly amid the bureaucratic formality. Around 1973, their son Liam Morgan was born, a fragile, beautiful boy whose arrival reshaped their world. But within months, a devastating truth surfaced. Liam had been born with a developmental disability. He was diagnosed with autism. To help him reach his full potential, he required specialist educational and therapy facilities, resources simply not available in Wales at the time. The couple made their home in Sketty, Swansea. In 1980, their daughter Charlotte Morgan was born, bringing warmth and wonder into a home already stretched by love and challenge. But beyond the Morgan family's quiet struggles, a dark pattern of sexual assaults and murders was emerging in the southern area of England. On the 2nd of August 1983, Eila Karjalainen, a 23-year-old Finnish nursing student, stepped off a ferry in Harwich, UK, fresh from Helsinki. With a rucksack and a dream of perfecting her English, she planned to hitchhike to Oxford for a language course. On November 25, 1983, her body was discovered in Kingswood, Blenheim Estate, Oxfordshire, approximately 60 miles from Bristol. The autopsy revealed strangulation using her own scarf. Her body was partially skeletized. She wore nothing but her socks. Her rucksack was recovered 50 meters away. Fingerprints were lifted from her diary, train ticket, and a chocolate wrapper and meticulously stored in the Thames Valley Police's evidence locker. No sexual assault could be confirmed due to advanced decomposition. Meanwhile, in January 1984, the Morgans made a life-altering move to 67 Dunkerry Road, Bedminster, Bristol, a 3-bedroom Victorian terraced house. The relocation was driven by one purpose: proximity to a specialist facility for autistic children, giving Liam the chance at a future he deserved. In February 1984, Shelley enrolled at Bristol Polytechnic Art College, focusing on landscape photography and mixed media. In April and May of 1984, Shelley completed 2 of 3 commissioned paintings for a local businessman. The first, of Bollum Dry Cleaners on East Street, an oil on canvas, and the second, of Bordeaux Quay, Harbourside, in watercolour. Then, on June 9, 1984, a murder occurred that would cast a long, ominous shadow over the case. Melanie Rhodes, a 17-year-old A-level student from Bath in Somerset, was attacked in the early hours on June 9, 1984, while walking home, just 200 meters from her front door, after a night out at the Beau Nash nightclub in Bath. She was twice, then stabbed 26 times before being chased approximately 30 meters down St. Stephen's Road into a cul-de-sac, and there she was left to bleed out on the pavement. Her body was discovered at 5:30 a.m. by a milkman and his son after discovering a blood trail that led from the street to the scene. The cause of death was hemorrhagic shock from multiple penetrating stab wounds to the chest, abdomen, and back. She had been repeatedly stabbed 26 times in total with a sharp-edged knife, causing 4-inch wounds. 8 of these wounds were to her breasts. There were no signs of defensive wounds, but the chase implied a desperate struggle. Semen was recovered from vaginal swabs, and her clothing was stored away as evidence. 2 days later, on June 11th, came Shelley's final morning. At 8:30 a.m., Shelley prepared breakfast for her children Liam and Charlotte. She tells the kids of her plans to go and photograph the George from Lee Woods with the intention of painting the photographs later. Shelley then happily chaperones them to school down Dunkerry Road. There, they meet an adult friend who takes Charlotte from Shelley to bring her to school. Shelley and Liam continue on towards Liam's bus stop. At 8:35 a.m., Liam's bus pulls in. Shelley kisses Liam goodbye and watches as he boards the bus. They wave at each other as the bus departs. It is not known where Shelley spent the next hour and a half, but between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., she went and collected a registered letter sent from her husband containing a weekly amount of money at the Royal Mail sorting office in Bedminster. She's then seen boarding a local bus on East Street at around 10:10 a.m., heading towards Bristol bus station. There, she is reportedly seen boarding the 354 bus towards Nailsea just before 11 a.m. At approximately 11:15 a.m., she is then seen alighting before Long Ashton, near the Ashton Gatehouse. A witness then alleges to have seen Shelley being waved down by the driver of a royal blue Ford Transit van, possibly to give directions to him and/or potentially accepting a lift. Detectives would theorize that this driver possibly offered to give Shelley a lift towards Lee Woods. Her movements after this are unclear, with some unconfirmed reports of her near Ashton Court or en route to Backwell, but these are unsubstantiated. Her last known appearance is described as wearing a scarlet-coloured top, a white skirt, and maroon-coloured tights, along with large red circular glasses. She was carrying a homemade patchwork-style shoulder bag, her tripod, and her camera. That afternoon, the children arrive back by bus to find their mum Shelley is nowhere to greet them. After a while, they go home, but the house is locked and nobody is home. They are stuck stranded outside. A female neighbor approaches the children asking where's their mummy. The children tell her she's coming. The neighbor waits a while with them, but eventually she takes them into her home and gives them biscuits and Ribena whilst they await Shelley's return. But as the time passes, it becomes clear that something is very wrong. Early evening, Shelley's husband Nigel returns home to 67 Dunkery Road after spending the weekend working in their Brecon Beacons second home. When he arrives, he realizes Shelley is not there, and neither were any signs of where she had gone since the morning. After checking locally and realizing she had not returned to collect the children or come home, he fears the worst. He finds that Shelley's bag, camera, and tripod are also missing. Nigel then drives to Bedminster Police Station and reports his wife missing to the desk sergeant. By 7:30 p.m, Shelley Morgan is officially logged as missing. Her case is categorized as high risk, citing the 2 young children left unattended, no history of disappearance, no note left, no bags, and no signs of leaving. Bedminster police immediately launched preliminary checks around Shelley Morgan's last known whereabouts in the Lee Woods area. Officers canvassed the quiet lanes, spoke with local residents, and examined any nearby car parks or secluded spots. But despite their efforts, these initial inquiries yielded no leads, deepening the mystery surrounding her sudden disappearance. The following morning at 6 a.m. at Lee Woods, the area is searched by a team of officers and sniffer dogs, but no trace of Shelley is found. By 6 p.m. that evening, the BBC programme Points West broadcasts an urgent appeal describing Shelley's last known location and her clothing. The programme yields 47 calls, which are checked and logged by police. Wednesday, June 13th, detectives discuss a potential link between the Melanie Road case and Shelley's. They note the similar victim profile, the short 48-hour gap between the 2 cases, and their close geography. They discuss the knife wounds in the Road case but note no comparison as Shelley Morgan is currently a missing person case. Police then canvassed over 350 houses in Bedminster, Backwell, and the Nailsea areas. But these efforts yield no confirmed sightings or tangible leads. In the initial stages of the investigation into Shelley's disappearance, police scrutinized her husband, Nigel Morgan, as is standard procedure in such cases. However, Nigel was swiftly ruled out as a suspect thanks to a cast-iron alibi. He had been working on the couple's second home in the Brecon Beacons, Wales, approximately 2 hours away from Bristol. This was independently verified by Welsh neighbours who confirmed his presence in the area, along with petrol receipts that documented his travels and activities during the relevant timeframe. From June 23rd to July 1st, rural searches expanded to over 50 sites, including Blaze Castle, Mendip Hills, the Chew Valley Lake where police divers are deployed, the Brecon Beacons, and further afield. But no signs of Shelley emerge. Over the following months, countless alleged sightings are reported, each followed up, and each ruled out. Detectives trace HGV lorry drivers who passed through the area. Each was eliminated via verified alibis. Sightings further afield in Wales and abroad trigger investigations into ferry terminals, logbooks, and Interpol liaison. Still, no trace of Shelley is found. And by the end of September 1984, the case had run cold. The number of detectives assigned dwindled to just 6. Then came an ominous break in the case. On Monday, September the 24th, 1984, an anonymous call was placed to Avon and Somerset Police. The male caller, speaking with a strong local Bristolian accent, claimed to have very informed information about the missing woman from Windmill Hill.
I got some very informed information about the missing woman from Windmill Hill. But unfortunately, this is going to turn out to be a murder inquiry. The body is in a Wall-Tree grave. I'm not certain whereabouts too. It's in Hannam River, between the bottom of Colin Hill and the old sea road.
The authorities acted swiftly despite the caller's uncertainty about the exact location. A specialist underwater search team comprising of 8 divers was immediately deployed to scour the specific stretch of the Hannam River at the bottom of Colin Hill. This search operation lasted 19 days, but concluded without the discovery of a body, any clothing, or any related evidence. Police classified this call as a hoax, a common occurrence in high-profile missing persons cases. A later 1995 analysis of the recording profiled him as a male aged between 30 to 50 with a North Bristol dialect. This man remains untraced. By mid-October, police had logged 2,847 man-hours, 312 leads pursued, and 57 sites searched. However, just 2 days after the failed river search was completed, news of a discovered body found 8 miles away from where Shelley was last seen brought a devastating conclusion to the case. Sunday, October 14th, children exploring a wooded copse stumbled upon the badly decomposed, naked body of Shelley Morgan. Lying face down at Watercatch Farm off Long Lane in Backwell Hill, about 8 miles west of Bristol near the airport. This location, a secluded rural area with fields and hedgerows, was unrelated to her planned sketching spot in Lee Woods. The children alerted authorities, leading to immediate police involvement. Detectives quickly cordoned off the crime scene and forensics began processing the scene for evidence. The remains were unclothed except for her torn maroon tights that were twisted around her ankles, and nearby one of her discarded sandals lay in brambles with thorns embedded in the leather. No other clothing, such as her scarlet top, white skirt, or red-framed glasses, nor personal items like her patchwork bag or Olympus camera, were recovered, despite extensive searches of surrounding fields and hedgerows. Due to the advanced decomposition, identification would need to be done via dental records. Shelley's dental history was compared to the teeth and jaw structure of the remains, yielding a positive match. No other methods, such as fingerprints or visual confirmation, were viable due to the skeletal state of the body, described variably as badly decomposed or skeletal remains. The forensic post-mortem examination concluded that Shelley Morgan had sustained 14 stab wounds, all concentrated on the upper mid-back, between the T4 and L2 vertebrae levels, from a single-edged blade. These wounds were described as inflicted with considerable force, indicative of a frenzied and targeted assault. The cause of death was unequivocally attributed to these multiple stab injuries, with no mention of additional trauma such as strangulation, blunt force, or defensive wounds on the hands or arms, which might have been expected in a struggle but could have been undetectable due to the advanced decomposition. Entomological evidence and decomposition further supported the timeline that death occurred on or shortly after the day of her disappearance, ruling out scenarios of prolonged captivity. Police inferred the killer had local knowledge of the remote Backwell Hill area and access to a vehicle for body transport, given the distance from her last known sighting in Long Ashton. The attack was deemed sexually driven, primarily based on the body being found naked, the positioning of the tights, and the nature of the violence. However, the challenges posed by decomposition, which could have degraded biological traces such as semen or injuries to the genital areas. On the 6th of November 1984, the case is featured on BBC One's Crimewatch UK. A full reconstruction is aired, with an actress playing Shelley Morgan depicting her last confirmed movements from the Bedminster bus stop to Long Ashton. This appeal generates 120 public calls within 48 hours, resulting in an extension of the confirmed timeline from 10:30 a.m. on June 11th, with several new but unverified sightings reported near Backwell. However, no significant breakthroughs were reported. And as the days turned to weeks and weeks to months, Shelley Morgan's case grew frustratingly cold once again. And on March 31, 1985, the Nail C incident room was officially closed after 5 months of intensive operations. A reduced team of 6 detectives remained assigned on a part-time basis, with the file declared open but inactive pending any new evidence. All the physical evidence from the Shelley Morgan homicide case was then archived under controlled conditions. The maroon tights were catalogued in an evidence bag, as were the sandals. Periodic integrity checks were conducted every 5 years, with the last pre-digital audit logged on March 12, 1999. In the year 2000, the fingerprints lifted from Eila Karjalainen's diary, train ticket and the chocolate wrapper in the 1983 Oxfordshire case were digitized using the automated fingerprint identification system, but cross-checks against the national database and Interpol returned no matches. Her case, too, remains stubbornly unsolved. Eila's case would crop up again in relation to Colin Campbell, a West London-based travelling pharmaceutical salesman who was convicted in 1985 of the manslaughter, originally murder, of Deirdre Sainsbury, a 29-year-old hitchhiker who was abducted on the 20th of December 1984 from Roehampton's South Circular Road. She had been strangled and bludgeoned with a hockey stick before mutilating her body and dumping her naked near Denham Golf Course in Buckinghamshire. While serving a life sentence for Deirdre Sainsbury, he is then convicted in 2013 of the murder of Claire Walterton, aged 17, who was abducted on the 27th of August 1981 from Hayes. She had been strangled, her throat slashed, sexually assaulted, and her genital area mutilated. Her naked body was found on a River Thames towpath in Windsor, Berkshire on August 28, 1981. Both attacks were sexually motivated. Clothing was removed and discarded, with Sainsbury's clothing found in Campbell's garage. In 1984, investigators briefly explored any potential link to the Finnish hitchhiker Eila Karjalainen. But despite both Eila and Deirdre hitchhiking west out of London on the M40 and their rural dumping sites, Campbell was ruled out via an alibi. A sales receipt allegedly placed him in Manchester on August 7th, the day Eila was murdered. Police also looked for a connection to Shelley Morgan's case, but found no links to Campbell. This theory was formally dismissed in 2019 by the Major Crime Review team. In 2014, retired Norfolk Detective Chief Inspector Chris Clark published a true crime book where he proposes a serial killing connection between Christopher Halliwell, a Swindon-based taxi driver, and at least 5 unsolved murder cases: Eila Karjalainen in 1983, Melanie Road in 1984, Shelley Morgan 1984, Linda Guest 1985, and Helen Fleet in 1987. Clark cited modus operandi overlaps with the rural dump sites, the removal of clothing as trophies, and exploitation of local geographic knowledge. However, Avon and Somerset Police as well as Wiltshire Police reviewed this theory and dismissed it due to the absence of DNA or witness linkage to Halliwell. In 2016, the Melanie Road murder is solved when Christopher Hampton, a 63-year-old painter and decorator living in Bristol, was arrested following a familial DNA match from his daughter's 2014 minor criminal damage offence sample. Hampton's daughter then provided police with his phone number. Hampton agreed to provide a voluntary DNA sample. The following day, he is arrested when his sample unequivocally matches that of Melanie Road's murder. He would eventually change his non-guilty plea to guilty at trial and received a life sentence, with the judge remarking on his callousness and cowardice. Damningly, Hampton's 1984 work logs, recovered from his former employer, confirmed a painting contract at Backwell during that week of June 11, 1984. Senior investigating officer Julie Mackay feels that Christopher Hampton killed Shelley Morgan, citing the identical stabbing patterns. But no charges were ever filed against Hampton in the Morgan case due to a lack of evidence. On June 11, 2019, on the 35th anniversary of Shelley Morgan's disappearance, the Major Crime Review team of Avon and Somerset Police announced a full re-investigation led by Detective Sergeant Sarah Barnston. 2 items of previously undisclosed evidence were released. 2 postcards from a 1980s Bristol hospice calendar. The first depicts the River Avon viewed from Bower Ashton, the exact location where Shelley was heading that day for sketching and photography on June 11, 1984. The second shows St. Andrew's Church from Backwell Hill, offering a direct line of sight to the wooded copse where her body was discovered. The postcards were tear-off items from a charity calendar, and police emphasized their possible significant bearing on the investigation without specifying exact theories, such as whether they were left by the killer or coincidentally connected. The second revelation was a low copy number, or LCN, DNA sample extracted from the maroon tights. This yielded a partial male profile covering 6 to 8 alleles. Thus far, the profile is insufficient for database matching. In October 2020, Detective Inspector Andrew Sparks issued a targeted appeal for the Olympus OM20 camera with the serial number 1032853 that Shelley owned, directing inquiries to eBay listings and photographic collector forums. Recovery of the Olympus camera, whose undeveloped film could retain latent fingerprints or final images taken by Shelley Morgan, could potentially link back to the killer. But so far, this camera has not been located. Between 2021 to 2023, the Major Crime Review team conducted familial DNA searches using the partial male profile against the National DNA Database and international partners. But all of these searches have resulted in no hits. And as of the airing of this documentary, Shelley's case remains active but dormant. Shelley Cameron Bryan Morgan, artist, mother, explorer, left behind more than a patchwork legacy of quilts, sketches, and fabric page stories. She left a void that time has never filled. Her laughter still echoes in the minds of Liam and Charlotte, who waited that afternoon with the unshakable faith that Mommy was coming home. Her absence deeply affected her beloved husband, Nigel. 35 years of forensic boxes, cold trails, and unanswered appeals have not dimmed the light she carried from Iowa cornfields to Bristol woods. Whoever silenced her voice on June 11, 1984, could not erase the vibrant thread she wove through every life she touched. She deserves justice, as too does her family. Thanks for watching and listening to Shelley's story. Please feel free to add your own thoughts, comments, and theories down below, and we'll see you next time.